Howdy. Welcome to the April 25th, 2026 episode, which I'm either calling Sweating the Math or Keeping the Math Straight. I'm sweating the math because it is currently 102 degrees, and since my apartment has no air conditioning, I am creating my own little sauna. Hmm. Um, I I bought some antihistamine, by the way, that is working so I can stay at Cecile's and I don't get completely stuffed up. So that's where I'm going to be sleeping until I get my AC here fixed. Anyhow, but I am sweating the math. Just a quick note, because somebody sent me a message about why is the stock market hitting all-time highs. And let's just be clear, Meta and Amazon both announced fantastic earnings, and they also announced that they're going to be cutting their workforce thanks to AI and robotics in the case of Amazon. And so Wall Street loves to hear when companies are going to cut back their workforce. Number one, Intel came out. Intel, the company that most of you used to have computers with Intel chips inside. Now you probably don't because Intel is just whatever. Anyhow, they finally had a great quarter. And so, surprise, surprise, the stock really pumped up to near record highs and brought the whole stock market up with it. So, yay. Again, the stock market is not the real world. Okay. But the math I want to talk about today is the straight math. And yesterday, five ships made it through the Strait of Hormuz, um, when normally it's 120. So the Strait of Hormuz is effectively shut. But that's not even the worst of the news here. The worst of the news is that every other waterway in the world is now asking themselves, can we start charging a toll for people to come through our waterway? And specifically, Indonesia has talked about this. Indonesia and Singapore, 40% of the world's commerce passes through the Singapore, Indonesia Strait. It goes right by. One time I actually went up on, if you remember the picture of anyhow, I went up very high in Singapore and you could see all the cargo ships passing by the strait, the Singapore Strait. It was impressive to see. Um, so anyhow, you have that. You have the Suez Canal where 12 to 15% of commerce passes through, and then the Strait of Gibraltar, where 20% of the world's commerce goes through. Now, I can be adding up all these percentages, and it can exceed 100. And it's not because I learned how to do math from the President of the United States, who famously this week repeated that he can cut costs by 600%, and that somehow is supposed to make sense. It doesn't. You can't reduce costs by 600%, but let that go. But all these percentages of the straits can be counted more than once. So if France wants oil from this region, it's going to go through the Strait of Hormuz. If the oil is coming from Qatar, it's going to go through the Strait of Hormuz, and then it's going to go through the Suez Canal, and then it's going to go through the Strait of Gibraltar. And so if it's got to pay a fee for every time it passes through one of these straits, then that is going to make the oil and every other product that comes through these straits so much more expensive. Prior to the Iran war, we had what was considered free maritime passage, that no country was charging a fee to go through these things. But now, let's see what are the ones that are noteworthy. The Panama Canal, 5% of the world traffic goes through there. And ultimately, Trump actually thinks this is a good thing. He likes the idea of countries being able to charge a toll for going through this passage, even though, honestly, we're going to be the ones hurt the most. But this is ultimately why he wants to take Greenland, because in the future, passage through the Arctic is going to become very popular. And so having Greenland means we get to charge a toll. That's his thinking. This is whereas every other president has endorsed the idea of let's increase trade, that countries that trade together are less likely to go to war. And so let's do our best to try to make the world a more free place. This president only sees dollar signs and where he can somehow make a profit. And so that's a scary, for those of you who watch Star Trek, our president's a Ferengi. Hmm. And I realize that that will make no sense to 95% of the people who watch this. So that's a good place to end this. May I find air conditioning by tomorrow? Please, please, please. Have a good day. Bye bye.